Hey, it's Tyler, host of the Tyler Knows Everything podcast, where the nose is crossed out because I always want to learn more. Before I tell you anything else, stick around to the end of this episode. There's a special violin rendition of the song Space Oddity by David Bowie, so be sure to check that out. I'll go ahead and get all the advertisements out of the way so that there's no interruption during the content of this episode. The patrons on Patreon for this month are Ty Kudrain, Mark McKee, Joe Gilbreth, Mitch Templeton, Zach Hawthorne, Roxanne, and Eric Helberg. And my newest patron is actually a guest on today's episode. He signed up on Patreon on his way to the studio. So thank you very much to Wade Adair. Very generous, sir. And of course, Mitch Templeton sponsors this podcast as a political ad paid for by the Mitch Templeton for Judge campaign. You too can sponsor this podcast for as little as $5. Just go to patreon.com/Tyler Knows Everything. That's www.patreon.com/Tyler Knows Everything. My guest today is a veteran of the Gulf War. Do you remember Operation Desert Storm from 1991? A lot of people forgot about it. Please welcome the super interesting and highly intelligent Wade Adair.
Tyler
knows
everything.
Yeah, a rolling start with the guests.
Yeah, let's do it, brother.
So yeah, thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah.
Before we get into the story of the Gulf War, you're kind of like the father of podcasts, except you didn't hit record, right? With some of your buddies.
Yeah. We used to call it fake radio show.
Right.
Yeah.
So what was that? It was you and some of your friends that would pretend like you were doing a radio show, right?
Yeah.
And
So I called it a Friday night, Saturday night. All the friends would come over and we would do Wade's fake radio show.
Do you have anything recorded?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
And, I don't know if it's anything I could grab. We're talking, 2005, 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have like callers and, or what was the nature of the show?
It was basically, bourbon and friends, and I would interview my friends.
Yeah.
And then, we would I had a whole thing where we would do, here comes Mike from Studio B. Let's hear him, what he has to say.
Yeah,
So,
that's about 5 years before Joe Rogan's first episode.
yeah, that's what I say. I think I missed out on it, man. I think
For sure, yeah. Because
I did
it was 2010. He released his first episode on Twitter, and it was just a Twitter live stream. It looked terrible.
Yeah.
And I remember I went back to watch it on the 10-year anniversary, episode 1, and the live views started getting up to like 50 people. And he looked at it and he said, "Oh man, 50 people. This is getting serious." And think of how many listeners he has. It's millions of downloads.
We had probably 6 at the most, and it was in my home office in Raleigh, North Carolina.
Yeah.
And I would just bring my friends in, interview them, and talk to them, and we're just joking around, having a good time. And then it just became a thing. Hey, they would say, "Hey, are we doing Wade's fake radio show tonight?"
Yeah.
And I'd be like, "Yes, of course." It's Friday, it's Saturday. Yes, of course we're going to do it.
Right.
And
That's fun.
I think they're on a computer that's in a closet somewhere.
Yeah. Sure.
But it was funny, and it was good, and it was a way for us to relax and vent about work.
Oh, it's a very good outlet.
Yeah.
Every time I leave here, because this isn't like a job or a moneymaker for me, right? It's a hobby.
Yeah.
And my mood is elevated, when I leave here because I'm meeting fascinating guests from all walks of life and hearing their story. And so I love it. And all the guys that do other podcasts in this room say the same thing.
Yeah.
And so I'm always fascinated by things that I've never done. I've never
Myself too.
right. I can't play any instruments, so I'm fascinated by people who can.
Okay. I can teach you how to play guitar.
Yeah, I need some lessons.
Drums.
And I've never been in the military. That's kind of like a very binary decision. You either did or you didn't. You didn't really do it a little bit. You either went all
No,
in.
you can't do it a little bit.
You can't experience it, right? It's not something that you can really do as a hobby. So, and I'm too old now, to even consider it. So it's something that always fascinates me because I know in my lifetime I'll never be able to experience it firsthand. Whether that's a blessing or a curse, I don't know. But the reason I'm fascinated about the Gulf War is because I was a kid. I was in elementary school when this was going on. So we're talking about, the Gulf War of 1990, 91. And it seems as I got older, I completely forgot about it. And I think everybody else did too. And it's almost like the forgotten war because when you see World War II veterans that are like 95, some of them are 100, it's amazing. We treat them like they're gods, and rightfully so. They were an incredible generation.
Of course.
And then Vietnam, everybody remembers this global world nationwide protest. Make love, not war. People were marching on Washington D.C. The hippie movement. It's known as kind of like the war that we lost. And so we remember those Vietnam veterans. Lots of movies and pop culture.
My father-in-law is a Vietnam veteran, lieutenant in Vietnam War, and I've tried to talk to him about it a little bit, but he's not that kind of guy.
Right.
He's like a...
So if you skip over the Gulf War into the Afghan War, then pretty much every Navy SEAL has become a celebrity. They've either got a book deal, they became a politician, a movie star, there's a movie about them, they're memorialized because they were, killed in action, and then maybe they had some team members that survived. They're very Hollywood, and everything surrounding that war has a lot more real-time media coverage and social engagement. So I feel like the Gulf War has been forgotten, and maybe some of the veterans in their story have been forgotten. But I was wondering if you could take us back to the moment you decided to volunteer for the military.
Sure. So I was living in Westlake, Louisiana, where I grew up at, and I was working at Market Basket. And I just graduated, turned 17, and my dad said to me, ultimatum, he said, when you turn 18, your bags will be on the front porch unless you go to McNeese. Okay, if you go to McNeese and still continue your job at Market Basket, you can stay here at home. I didn't want to go to school. Okay, school was rough for me.
Okay,
I took Algebra 1 4 years in a row, the same seat, the same teacher, and I barely passed to get out to. I did take summer school because I signed up with the Army when I was 17 in the delayed entry program.
And did you have to have a waiver signed by your parents to do that?
Yes, they sat at the kitchen table with me with my recruiter and had to sign everything.
Right.
So I spent almost a year in delayed entry program, but I had to go to summer school too. So I took Algebra 1 for 4 years. I couldn't get out of it.
Now, what month were you turning 18?
April. My birthday's
so
April.
kind of a late birthday.
Yeah, maybe April 6th.
Senior year.
Yeah. So I took summer school. I made an A. And I was able to complete the requirements to go from the delayed entry program to actually go to basic training.
Did you have to take the ASVAB back then?
Yes.
Okay.
So, they come to your school, you take it. I had some different options, but I chose the Army because I didn't know what I was going to do. I couldn't. I thought about, I'll just keep working at Market Basket, which, hey, Market Basket is a great company.
My first job was Brookshire's.
Mine was Randy's Supermarket in Westlake, Louisiana. When I was between 14 and 15, I called them every day and asked them, can I get a job? Can I get a job? Can I get a job? So much that they finally said, you know what, okay, stop. You can bag some groceries. Which I didn't know how to do, but I did it, and mop some floors, stock some shelves. You know about that.
Yeah. Started out as a sacker.
Yeah.
Worked my way up.
Yeah. I carried groceries out for people.
Yeah.
Made good tips,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then I went to work for Market Basket when I was about to graduate, and I had to go to summer school. And I didn't graduate with my class. I had to get my diploma after summer school.
Oh,
But at that point, I'd already decided that I was going to go to the Army, regardless, hands down. I was a little underweight, and so I had to gain a few pounds. Had to get my diploma, which I did. And once those two things happened, I knew I was going. So I told my dad and said, "Don't worry about it. This is my decision. So you don't have to put my bags out by the door."
yeah. And that's like a foreign concept to kids nowadays.
Oh yeah, yeah. If I could, well, I would never tell my kids that. You know, I baby my kids.
Yeah, I don't think I could either.
Yeah. They could stay with me, with us forever if they wanted to. You know, my concept. My wife might, you know, be a little different.
Yeah.
She's a teacher. She'd use her teacher voice. So once I knew that that's the direction I want to go, I got that mindset. I did what I had to do.
What year was your senior year?
88.
Okay.
Yeah. So September, my dad drove me down to the Greyhound bus depot in Lake Charles. Said, "Good luck." And I went off. And I started my own life, and I joined the Army, and I was in, you know.
I think your generation is a little bit harder than, you know, our kids. So how was basic training, you know, back in the late 80s?
So I'm an infantryman. Okay, so I went to Fort Benning. If you
What state is that in?
Georgia.
Okay.
Yeah, and went to Sand Hill. If anybody's listening, they're infantrymen, a Blue Cord brother, then they know what that means.
What is the Blue Cord Brotherhood?
So Blue Cord Brotherhood, Blue Cord is the cord you get as an infantryman when you graduate.
Okay, yeah, that goes around the shoulder of
It
the...
goes around your shoulder, yeah. That's what you work for.
Yeah.
And
what does the Army call their dress?
Dress greens.
Dress greens, okay.
Well, now listen, I haven't been in the Army for 30 years, so I might not know all the current terminology. But back then it was called dress greens, dress A's. And you would, you know, I never got my blue cord until I graduated from basic training.
Okay.
And then they give it to you, and you get to put it on, and you know it's like finally. But basic training was rough, man. It was. So I went in September and August. 6 weeks basic training, 6 weeks AIT. I went as an infantryman. My MOS was 11 Bravo, 11 Mike, which is 11 Bravo is an infantryman, 11 Mike, you know, is a mechanized infantryman.
Okay.
So I was assigned to a unit that's mechanized infantry, which is Bradley infantry fighting vehicle.
Yeah, that was an important vehicle for the Gulf War.
Yeah, it was. And at the same time, M1 Abram tanks were very important. We worked with them. They worked with us.
Yeah, because I think back in Vietnam, it was a lot more low technology. They basically had troops, M16, and helicopters. And that was pretty much it.
I think the M14s maybe back then. I'm not
Maybe,
sure.
yeah.
I don't know.
And they probably had a lot more hindrance of communications. You know, we didn't have as many satellites, cell phone technology, nothing like that.
You know, the Gulf War, there was another nickname called for the arcade war, because you could watch on CNN.
Yeah, the video game war.
Yeah, there was
right.
Yeah, there you go.
That was the first. I remember watching it as a kid. You have the black and white screen with the target, and it's hovering over like a communication tower or an enemy base.
Yeah.
And then in a split second, you don't even see the projectile. It's just boom, and it's gone.
Yeah.
And they were showing that kind of, you know, like almost in real time, basically. Where I guess journalism before had to be recorded, and they have somebody has to send it back, and then it's kind of like a replay.
Yeah.
And this was like live stream war.
Yeah, which hadn't been done before.
Right, exactly.
That had never been done before.
Yeah.
I got to make 2 phone calls when I was deployed in the Gulf War. One, you know, they have center set up. They had centers set up where you go in, very secure. You have a booth, you have a phone. You tell them who you want to call, number. They check it out. You wait for it, and then they're like, "Okay, you're clear," and the number goes through. I called my dad's. I called my house. Called my dad's, and nothing. I guess they were probably out eating barbecue or something. I
Yeah,
don't
way
know.
different time zones.
Yeah.
You're on the other side of the world.
The second one I called my Aunt Sandy. It's a very important lady in my life. So I called and she answered, and we got to talk. You have like, I think if I remember, you had somewhere around 4-5 minutes to, you got to say what you got to go.
Oh, it's like
And
prison.
they're monitoring everything. They tell you
Yeah.
don't say where you're at, don't say
Right,
what
yeah.
you're doing.
Sure.
So I just wanted to check in to let them know that my feet were still on the ground.
Yeah.
And I remember her telling me, and I never really understood this until later when I came back and I understood that everything was being broadcast. She said, "Don't worry, baby, we're fighting the war with you on CNN. We're watching it right with you." Something
Wow.
something to that. We're right there with you on CNN.
Yeah.
And so that was, I didn't understand it at the time.
Yeah.
I thought, what'd she say? And then when I got back and understood that we didn't know what was going on at CNN.
Sure.
No one told us that, hey, everything's being broadcasted, or we didn't know.
Yeah, I remember tallying the Scud missiles versus Patriot missiles, and there would be these. It was kind of like a 6-wheeled utility vehicle, and it would raise a missile up, and that would be a Scud missile that they were I think Iraq was wanting to fire it on a city, and then
Horrible technology. Yeah.
right, and then the Patriot missile would intercept it in the air before
Yeah.
it came down to its
Yeah.
trajectory, and we kept keeping this tally like in class of how many times we intercepted them, and you're like
Yeah.
rooting on.
Yeah.
There wasn't a lot of protests. We were like rooting on you guys.
Yeah,
we
well-
were writing you letters. Sending
Yes.
sending banners to the mail. I remember autographing banners
Yeah.
and sending that stuff over there.
Well, let me tell you on the two things on that. One, on Scud missiles, when we were, wherever we were at, there would, if we were in a position, you would hear it come over your headset. And it would be an alarm, dun,
Right.
dun, dun, and you're like, okay, Scud missile's coming. And it means that it's coming to us.
Oh,
and
wow.
then we would be like, come on, Patriot, baby. Come on, Patriot. Get it, get it, get it, get it, get it. And then, boom, all clear. And you'd see it.
Yeah.
And then we're like, yes, one more. We got one more.
Wow.
The Patriot missiles technology was so much better than the Scud missiles.
Yeah, as far as guidance.
Yes,
Yeah.
everything.
Right.
It was just a bad system. But now some Scud missiles did get through
Right.
to some areas, but it was far and few between.
Okay.
The Patriot missile was very dominant one.
Yeah. How much time from the time you signed up till the time you were deployed?
Okay, so I signed up in 88, went to
So about-
basic training. I went to AIT, so 6 weeks.
Maybe like 2 years.
No,
less.
No, less than that, yeah.
Wow.
So I got my papers. I was actually, when I got my papers to be shipped to your base where you're going to
Yeah.
be stationed at, mine was Japan.
So
Yeah.
if you had to, like for a sport or an occupation, you're like a rookie, right?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
like a beginner
They're
soldier.
They're like, here, you're going here, you're going here, you're going here. That's the way it worked.
And when you signed up your senior year, was anything hot going on in the world? Not
Nothing.
really. No.
Nothing.
No.
It was,
so did you anticipate?
No, no.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be a soldier.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So when I went down to first, you go to Houston to the processing center, and they bring you in and kind of look at your test scores, and they kind of figure out what you want to be. In high school, I was in a drum corps, the Black Watch Drum Corps. Shout out to my Black Watch Drum Corps members. And my dad said, when you go down there, why don't you try to get in an Army band? And I had different thoughts.
Yeah.
And I got down there, and they showed me a few things, and I was like, nah, I want to be that guy right there.
Right.
And they're like, okay, you're good.
Yeah.
And so I signed the papers. I got back, and my dad said, so how'd it go with getting the Army band? I said, no, I'm going to be an infantryman. And
Yeah.
he was like,
That's like frontline soldier.
he just went, wow, man.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, my decision, you know.
Right. Yeah.
And
And
so-
I read that currently, I think only about 15% of the military is what you did, the fighting force. The rest of it is the support. You know, it takes
Yeah.
all of that administration and technology and support staff and transportation to get you there and to support you guys.
Yeah.
And cooking. You know, think
Yeah.
of all the food that the
Yeah.
military goes through.
Payroll.
Yeah.
Think about payroll.
Administration duties,
Uniforms. You know,
mechanics,
supply.
And, yeah.
The supply guys, you know, they issue you underwear, T-shirts, socks. You know,
Right.
Those little things are important. But so from the time that I signed on to the time I was deployed, I was in line with papers to go to Japan. And my drill sergeant comes up and says, "Adair, where are you going?" I was like, "Hey, I'm going to Japan." And I was happy about it.
Yeah.
Because I heard great things about going over there.
Right.
There
They're
was
friendly to
yeah,
Americans.
No conflict.
Yeah.
It was great. And I had some feedback from some people about going over there. And this is literally how it happened. I said, "I'm going to Japan." And he goes, "No, you're not. You're going to Germany."
Oh,
And
okay.
while I was in line to out process, he said, "You're going to Germany." And I was like, "Germany? Wait, that's cold."
Yeah.
I'm from Southeast Texas, Southwest Louisiana. Don't they have snow there?
Yeah.
And my whole
Right.
just left my body, and so I got there. I flew into Frankfurt, and I was actually stationed in a town called Kitzingen, which is where I was in 3rd Infantry Division, which Wurzburg, 3rd Infantry Division is Wurzburg. So think about it from going to Beaumont to Houston.
Yeah. Okay.
So I was in the Beaumont version of
Right.
Kitzingen in Germany. And first day I got there, it checked in. It rained, it snowed,
Yeah.
and then the sun came out.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, okay, kind of feels like Southeast Texas.
Yeah.
I'm here. But I trained there. So it was about, so I got there 88. So 89, the Gulf War started in 90. We left in August of maybe 89 and got deployed over to so we were reading about it, we were hearing about it on the radio, we were monitoring, and we were like, God, please don't let us have to go over there and mess with that.
Yeah. And at that time, was it Operation Desert Shield?
It was.
Okay. And
yeah.
so Shield was before the fighting began.
Yeah,
And then
and,
Operation Desert Storm was when the aerial strike happened, I guess.
Yeah,
Right?
so August the 2nd, 1990 was when we left to go over there.
Okay.
And the war ended in February 28, 1991. And it was, called the 100-Day War.
Yeah. So I got some notes here that says the Gulf War began with an extensive aerial bombing campaign on 16th of January 1991. It was 42 consecutive days and nights of coalition forces subjected Iraq to one of the most intensive air bombardments in military history. The coalition flew over 100,000 sorties, is it? And dropped 88,500 tons of bombs. And it destroyed both military and civilian infrastructure. And so that was General Schwarzkopf.
Yeah, General Schwarzkopf and General Colin Powell.
Yeah.
Two guys that put General Colin Powell put it together. I brought this book I want to show you. Take my pen.
Now, what was he at that time?
He was the chairman of the Joint Chief of Staffs.
Okay.
Now, this
And
is
so he was a part of Bush's administration?
He was.
Bush Sr.?
Bush Senior, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's actually the one who put it together with Schwarzkopf. And this
Was he kind of like, would you call him the architect of the Gulf War?
Yeah, he I would think so, because there's a chapter in here called, this is about his life story. There's a chapter in called "Line in the Sand," and it's if you like history like me,
Yeah.
if you want to know, I assume that you like that too.
Oh, yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
So you can see some behind the scenes things in this chapter called "Line in the Sand." But yeah, he put it together, and he was. If you read this book, he was really on top of it.
Yeah, he's very intelligent. That's a
He-
thick book. Have you read the whole thing?
Yeah, no, you see one of my markers, and
Oh, okay.
if you see this
There.
book, it looks beat
Yeah.
I've been wrestling with this book for a long time, so
Right.
I love to read. I don't know if you
Audiobooks.
your audio. Okay, so I still like to read books, and
Yeah.
we have a house full of books. And,
Oh man.
yeah, and I'm
I
trying
like
to
them as decoration, but if I sit down, I'll be asleep by the first 5 pages. So the audiobook, I can do things. I can work in the yard. I
Yeah.
can wash the car, and I can finish it.
Well, that's the great thing about podcasts. For
Right,
me,
yeah.
I'm always driving and traveling everywhere.
Oh, yeah,
so
for sure.
I plug in my podcast and I can listen to it instead of listening to the radio. you
Yeah,
know?
I'm constantly learning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's a point in my day that I like to just grab a book, sit down, and read a little bit.
Now, one book that I did read cover to cover because it didn't have an audio version was Damon West's book, The Change Agent.
Yeah,
And,
I read
yeah,
it. Yeah. Have you read The Coffee Bean?
No, I haven't. I need to get that one.
Yeah.
But he now has an audio version of the first one. I think he
Yeah.
read it, but at the time he didn't. So I had to read that one. But I didn't have to worry about falling asleep with that one. I was on the edge of my seat because
Yeah.
that's a story like no other.
Yeah, yeah. He's a great guy with a great story. He actually came to our. I invited him to come speak at our Rotary
Right.
event, and we had a book signing and everything. And just listening to him talk, if you get an opportunity to listen to him talk about it, it's a pretty neat deal.
Sure. So there's usually a war bad guy, right? They try to name the face of the enemy. That was Saddam Hussein.
Saddam
So
Hussein.
what was he doing and what was he up to and why were we mad at him?
Saddam Hussein decided to annex and invade Kuwait. Kind of snuck in there and muscled them out, and
Yeah.
said, "Hey, now Kuwait's mine."
Okay. And Kuwait's kind of that smaller country in the middle of the most.
Borders Saudi Arabia,
Yeah.
borders not Iraq, and obviously oil production. I don't know. I don't have the answers. I'm just telling you what
Right,
I know. But yeah, he went in there and said, Kuwait's mine.
Right.
We heard about it, and Kuwait borders Saudi Arabia, sent some red flags up.
Mm-hmm.
If no one knows, I mean, we protect Saudi Arabia.
Right.
Yeah, and so we went in there and said, no, that's not going to work. We put sanctions on him. He didn't care about that.
Yeah.
He did get out. We gave him. Colin Powell gave him ultimatums. You got to get out of here. Still didn't work. He was like, "This is my country now," and we had two focuses: one to protect Saudi Arabia, and one to protect Kuwait to make sure he got out.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole Gulf War was about getting him out of Kuwait, which we did. But in the process, as he was leaving, he destroyed that country.
Right. When he retreated, he set everything on fire.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the things that us that were deployed, whether you were deployed in combat or not, you breathe that in. Sorry, you breathe that in.
Yeah.
That was one of the things that was a problem for us that served and deployed in Gulf War.
So most of you and your soldiers are now probably late 40s?
50.
50?
I just turned 50.
Okay, so about right around
So 30
50.
years.
Yeah. And what we were hearing is Gulf War syndrome or Gulf War illness,
Yes.
what it's now called. It says many returning coalition soldiers reporting illnesses following their action in war. It's a phenomenon known as Gulf War syndrome or Gulf War illness. And common symptoms that were reported are chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, gastrointestinal disorder, and it's been widespread speculation and disagreement about the causes of the illness that may be related to birth defects. But researchers found that infants born to male veterans of 1991 had higher rates of two types of heart valve defects, and some children born after the Gulf War veterans had certain kidney defects that were not found in the Gulf War veterans, and the children born before the war. And but researchers said that they didn't have enough information to link it to the exposure of the toxic substances. So, do you think it? You mentioned the oil well set on fire. Do you think that you might have been subjected to bioweapons?
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah, we were here's the things that we're subject to. So let's just start with the vaccines. The things that we took at vaccines were when my platoon, we went as a platoon, not a company, not a unit. There was a platoon, so there was about 25 guys.
25, okay.
Yeah, 25 guys, and that we didn't even get to bring our own Bradleys. We just got on the bus, went to the processing station where it looked like a buffet line where the things are you go through.
Wow.
And every time you go through, there's another needle.
Oh, man.
Boom, boom.
There's a scene in the movie Jarhead where that's a movie about
yeah.
and they're all lined up and he's reading this thing. It's kind of like a disclaimer saying, this medication hasn't been tested or whatever.
Yeah.
I need everybody to, put the pill in their mouth and then open their mouth, show them that they took it. And immediately after they all spit it out because it was supposed to protect them against bioweapons,
Sure.
but they were so, non-confident about their government giving them something that they would rather be subjected to the bioweapons than take whatever mystery medication it was. So you're going through this line and they're giving you injections and pills and all kinds of things.
Well, just injections and the line. So let me just tell you.
Did they tell you what they were?
Well, yes. No, they did.
Wow.
I'll find out later. But let me tell you how this started. So I was so we were hearing the news about what was going on, reading the newspapers, American Stars and Stripes, listen to the radio, and then we started training every morning when we got there like we were leaving, right? So we did put full gear on, get ready. So I was living off post at that time with my family, and my older kids were 1, and I had an infant, and I was living off post, and I would run into work for first formation or PT. And I remember the day I kiss everybody goodbye. And see, we actually had a lunch date to meet at the Burger King on post, which is all we had on post. Burger King and a crappy pizza place. And so I run in just like we're doing the regular drill. Go in, go downstairs, put on my gear, go to first formation, and then sitting there, and then buses pull up. And then that's when I knew, oh, man. This is live fire. This is the live drill. Mm-hmm. We get on and we go to processing, and they put us through these lines, and we were joking. Pull your pants down. I'm like, yeah, we're just joking, make jokes about your butt hanging out, and ha ha ha, and and then about after the maybe 9th needle in your butt, you're like, when is this going to end?
Wow.
And there's no more jokes.
Yeah.
When we get to the end, everybody's like, what? And then they're like, get on the bus, go. Drove to Frankfurt, got on a plane, cargo plane, where we strapped in.
Yeah, kind of like a C-130.
It was a C-130.
Yeah, and you're almost like you're standing up, right?
Yeah, you're kind of like this, and you're strapped in.
Right.
And then we flew straight to Saudi Arabia and landed there. And we were one platoon that was assigned to different units there. So we were assigned as security. So you talked about support.
Yeah.
So we, one of our assignments was to be security, to bring support into the back lines. Mm-hmm. And we had to do a convoy, and we were supporting. I remember this was almost about 24 hours driving straight.
Wow. I
remember falling asleep. I remember, hearing, wake up, Adair, wake up, go forward, because it was a slow process. Mm-hmm. We were assigned to 101st Airborne, 82nd Airborne. We cleared bunkers with both of those groups at the Iraq National Airport. We were just a unit that was passed around to engage in different conflicts. But that's how I remember, how I got into, hey, this is the real deal, you're going. Yeah. Yeah. However, also I took that as a thing that I was able to put in my mind that, I have 2 babies back at home. Mm-hmm. There's nothing that's going to happen out here that's going to prevent me from getting back to my babies and my family. So I guess everybody has something they hold on to try to do that, but that was my thing. So I just kept that in my mind and just marched on.
Is any part of your gear bulletproof?
No,
Not at all.
we didn't have that at that time. No.
Yeah.
No.
No
Matter of
body
fact-
armor.
Yeah. So the big thing was everybody was worried about we were going to be exposed to chemical warfare,
Yeah.
and so we took tablets
Yeah.
every day. You get a 24 cluster pack, and you got
Oh, wow.
and our lieutenant would bring everybody together and say, "Hey, take your pills," and you had to take them like every 8 hours.
Yeah.
They wanted us to wear a chemical suit
Yeah.
over our BDUs, our regular uniform.
Yeah.
But there were several of us that ditched the BDUs and just wore the chem suit.
Yeah.
Yeah, just wore the chem suit shirt, jacket and pants, and your boots.
What was it that they thought Saddam had to use against you guys?
Botulism.
Oh.
They thought that was the main thing, and so
And so were all the pills and vaccines supposed to
yes,
keep you from experiencing the symptoms of botulism?
to protect you. And so
Okay.
they gave us anthrax. I mean, there are so many things. That,
What were they giving you anthrax for?
It was part of the vaccines.
Oh, to be
go- yeah.
immune to anthrax being used against you.
Yeah.
Ah, yeah.
It was
Okay.
they gave us a lot of stuff, man. I mean,
Wow.
Yeah,
And at that time, there were no long-term studies on how this would affect a
No.
human.
no.
It's like they were just guessing.
It took 10 years after the Gulf War before the VA admitted that
Yeah.
it wasn't psychosomatic. It wasn't in your head. It was a real thing.
Right, okay.
And then they started applying for funding. And then they set up the Gulf War Registry and the open burn pit registry. So if you served over there,
Yeah.
and you don't even have to be registered with the VA Health. If you served over there and you were deployed in the Gulf War, you need to go and register for both of these.
Yeah.
The more people that go and register for these, the more information we'll have to help us that have
Yeah.
Gulf War illness.
So there's a period of time right after where they thought you guys were just complaining about something, and nobody
Very
was
much.
taking it seriously.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And it like I said, it took 10 years before they really
Yeah.
admitted that, hey, there's an issue. Hey, that's the same thing they did with Agent Orange in
Right, in
Vietnam.
Vietnam.
My father-in-law,
Yeah.
he was exposed to Agent Orange.
Yeah, because I think the theory was they wanted to use Agent Orange to kill the foliage so that the enemy, because the enemy was using foliage to hide,
Yeah.
and they knew the jungle. We didn't know the jungle, so we were trying to kill the jungle.
Yeah.
Well, everybody's breathing. It's kind of like the stupid chemtrail conspiracy theorists. Well, they're not spraying themselves. We're all breathing the same air. Same thing with Agent Orange.
Yeah.
If it's killing the trees, killing organic matter, what's it doing to you? And you're breathing it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What were some of the symptoms that you noticed where you knew something wasn't quite right?
So I first noticed my body aches and pains. So if you know me and you see me, you see I walk with a limp. I have some back joint aches issues in my hands, in my back, and in my leg. Did a nerve study. I only have 4 nerves that fire in my right leg.
Oh, okay.
So I just noticed that I felt not like that I should feel at an age. You know? I should feel better. I work out all the time, and
So can you actually run if
No.
you?
no,
Okay.
I can't. But don't put that out. If you try to chase me,
Yeah.
no, I can't run. No, not at all. No.
Right. Okay.
I have an exercise bike at home, and I can do that.
Yeah.
I stretch or try to do some yoga.
And I see you in town. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
And then today, of course, our studio's upstairs.
Yeah.
And I noticed that you made a comment about the stairs, and I was,
Yeah.
I was like, I thought maybe
I can't do stairs, man. It's
Yeah.
it's going up is worse. Going down, I can probably do down, but
Right.
up is horrible. Matter of fact, I text my wife and I said, "Look, he's upstairs." She's like, "Oh God."
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't do stairs well. It's just it is what it is, and I try to do different things. I don't just I try to stretch, and they say yoga would be good for me, but it doesn't operate that. My leg doesn't operate that
Yeah.
that well.
Were you around a lot of percussion like gunfire?
Yeah, no.
Loud noises?
Yeah. My unit. Yeah, I have a combat infantry badge. I served in combat.
Yeah.
We were in multiple engagements. So, yeah, and I was in a Bradley. So I always tell everybody think about like if you're in a tin can.
Yeah.
And so a Bradley has a 25 Mike cannon, 25 millimeter cannon.
Yeah.
That shoots nothing like an M1 Abrams, but
Mm-hmm.
we were designed to go buzz in real quick, let everybody out, take care of a situation, get back in, and then pull back.
Yeah.
But it still has a tow missile on it, and it still has a 25 millimeter cannon. We call it a cannon on it. And if you're in that, I was a driver
Okay.
at that time, and if you're in there and you hear that boom, boom in that, so and then you hear explosions around you, rounds landing next to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a lot of percussion as
Yeah.
you described it. Yeah.
Yeah, so you were a tank driver.
Well, I was an infantryman that drove a Bradley fighting vehicle.
Okay. Yeah.
And I served in the only two positions I never served in was the commander of a Bradley because I wasn't commissioned. I was non-commissioned. I was a sergeant at the time, and I worked in the back as soldiers that would ramp out. But the most of the time I spent in Desert Storm, I was a driver for our lieutenant, the commander of our platoon.
Okay. And so what all things did you kind of go through during that time? Did you see the Air Force moving real fast? They kind of made it sound like guys in your position wanted more action, and the Air Force kind of came in so fast. And
the air movement before we were to go in was tremendous. I mean, they took out different sites that Saddam had set up, and
strategic targets.
Yes, strategic targets. Yeah, and some of those were chemical and
that's right. Warehouses.
Yeah, and so that we were exposed to that as well.
Yeah, because I guess if that's being blown up, then it's in the air. It's kind of like when we had the plant explosion down in Port Neches, and you have that 4-mile radius that people are told to evacuate.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you're in a war zone, you can't evacuate. You have to go in. You have to go.
Yeah. So just imagine. So you have as a driver, you have a hatch. And sometimes when you're not engaging, you can open that up, try to get some fresh air.
Right.
And you drive right past the oil well that's burning, and it's just right in your face.
Oh yeah.
You still got to go to where you got to go.
Does the inside of the Bradley have ventilation?
No.
Wow.
No ventilation.
And you're in the desert. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me tell you about. I'll tell you about Kuwait and Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
Just push back everything about a war. Two beautiful countries.
Yeah. It's kind of like where the world began.
Yeah.
Iraq is.
Yeah.
Between the two rivers.
Yeah. So we spent most of our engagements in Kuwait because we're pushing Saddam Hussein back into Iraq.
Right.
At the end of the Gulf War, we went into Iraq, but when we weren't engaging, and in the morning it's cold, we would get up, make a fire, make some coffee, and just try to warm up. It was freezing.
Yeah.
And then by lunch, it's 100, 115.
Yeah, because it's the desert, right? There's no humidity.
Yeah.
Here in Southeast Texas, when it's 100 degrees in the summertime, it's 95 at night because we have all that thick air humidity to hold on to.
And you would take that moment when between the morning and the afternoon before you were waiting to hear for the next load up, let's go.
Yeah.
And you would look around. I looked around. I was like, man, why are we fighting? It's a beautiful country over here, man.
So could you get 8 hours of sleep?
No, I never slept.
How much sleep did you get?
I would say on a daily, tuck in at night, I'd say 3, 4 hours. I think I would say 3 or 4 because. So in your headset, you have 2 channels. You have the channel that you're listening to your Bradley.
Yeah.
And then you have the channel that you're listening to everyone else. and what's going on. And so I was always listening to that, and I'd switch to that. Once I knew everybody was sleeping, I would switch to that and just listen to what everybody else was doing and what they were doing. And, I always wanted to be on alert. And that's just, at night, sometimes I used to pop my hatch and take my M16 out and just put it there. And then I would go to sleep and wait, and then turn it on the full channel and just wait and listen.
So I know when I get consecutive nights of 3 hours, 4 hours of sleep, I'm not an effective human.
Not me neither, no.
And so how did you guys pull that off day in, day out? Your lives on the line.
Well, remember, the only way that I pulled that whole campaign off was because I had babies at home that I needed to get to, and a family. That's the only way. I talk to myself every night about that.
Yeah.
You gotta get through this. You gotta get through this. No matter what, you're gonna get through this.
Stay alert. Yeah.
Yeah. You gotta get back home. You gotta get back home to the babies.
Did you have some friends that were single men that maybe had different attitudes?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah. They were
like the Bring It On cowboy. Garden in there.
Yeah, we had a guy that was that joined our unit right before we left. Had a basic training, single guy. Didn't really get to know him very much, but he was assigned to my Bradley, and he was very much gung ho, and he wanted to. He'd watched too many Rambo movies. And
right.
He wanted to do. We had a little incident where he threw a grenade out and it didn't go in the bunker, and then so we had to jump off and pull him back out. Yeah, he just wasn't trained correctly, and he was hyped up too much a little bit.
Right.
Yeah,
sure.
So that's the thing. That's the place where you got to keep. If you want to come home, you got to keep your head.
Yeah.
If you want to go Rambo, then you're probably not gonna make it. But he did. He came back with us, and I'm very proud that all of us came back. That went over. All of us in that platoon went, that came back with us.
What were some of the first time technologies that were used in that war? I think the stealth fighter was
stealth. Yeah. So much, and I'm not knowledgeable about, unless just the simple fact that the Air Force, in the combined country, we had 35 countries. I'll tell you that right. That was in coalition, 35 different countries.
Right. Yeah, I think Margaret Thatcher was the prime minister that was in charge for, was it Great Britain or United Kingdom? Or
Great Britain. And the combined forces of Air Force just went in there and just tore that place up.
I think another one they use is the A-10 Thunderbolt or the Warthog. That's the jet that's got the turboprops on the side, and it's got a Gatling gun kind of angled down.
Kind of like a Gatling.
And the shells are like my forearm, right? And they just rain down like and
they did Air Force did a tremendous job for all of us that went in afterwards. We were staged, and then once they finished the air campaign, they said just go in. Saddam Hussein had said that he had, across the border, he had dug trenches and filled it with diesel oil and lit it on fire with barbed wire.
Yeah. And I think at that time, Iraq was the fourth largest army in the world, maybe?
Yeah, I think those numbers are fudged a little bit.
Yeah. There's a huge difference in number one and number four, right?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you that, I interacted with the Iraq National Guard one-on-one, as we cleared bunkers and pulled them out. And a lot of them were starving. We would roll up into an engagement, and they would just be like,
surrender. And that's his soldiers, right?
His soldiers, yeah.
Did you ever see any of his palaces?
No, I'll tell you why, because when we...
Because you're mostly in Kuwait, I guess, right?
Yeah, so we're in Kuwait. So when we got to Iraq, we were just not too far to go into Iraq. And that was the decision that was made. Do we push him in and just go and collapse him now? Or have we completed the mission? We get him out of Kuwait, and Saudi Arabia was protected. And they decided that we have done our job.
Yeah.
Let's just go ahead and cut it down right here.
So that was mission accomplished.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they let him and his people stay over there, and we never went in. But
Yeah.
I'll tell you what I remember about that. I remember being there, and as any soldier that was there was like, yes, we're going to go in and take this out. Let's finish this.
Yeah.
This is what you'd been here for this
Right.
whole time. And we were like, oh, let's go in. And then on the radio, you could hear request a fire because
Yeah.
they were leaving. They were leaving to go Kuwait, go back to Iraq. You know, he had like a convoy. And you could hear request a fire, request a fire, request a fire. And no, ceasefire.
Where do you think he
ceasefire.
was during that time? Because it wasn't
You know
until
Saddam, man.
yeah.
he
Well, they
could've-
found him in a hole. You know, it wasn't
Yeah,
until Bush
that was
43.
in Iraq. In Iraq, Iraq
it
War.
was George Bush junior
Mm-hmm.
Which was 8 years of. You know, we had 8 years
Yeah.
of Clinton in between Bush 41, Bush 43, and then they found him in a hole.
Yeah.
So
Well, at that instant when we were just about to go in there, and they were requesting fire, no, ceasefire.
were they requesting to fire on Saddam?
Yeah, because
On his
they
convoy?
were retreating into Iraq.
Yeah.
And we're right there.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I'm telling you, we're looking at them, and they're just driving by.
And that was
There's-
snipers that were, or infantrymen.
Yeah, so we're there like in our vehicles, and this is his tanks and he had civilian vehicles. Everything was just going
Yeah.
back in Iraq,
Oh, okay.
and we were requesting. I could hear my lieutenant up in the turret going, "Request a fire, and you could hear on the full channel. You could hear everyone requesting, and then you could hear ceasefire,
Yeah.
ceasefire, and then all of us were like, "What?
Yeah.
What? That's it?
Right,
We're
right.
good." And then it went on for like 10, 20 minutes, and then it was turn around. We started heading back to go back to our position, and then we heard that the war was over.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So the initial conflict to expel Iraqi troops from Kuwait. Let's see. Yeah. So what happens then for you? You watch the convoy go back into Iraq, and then
You can imagine we were all pretty pissed,
Yeah.
and upset about it, and
because that face of the enemy, you think that you just
Yeah.
saw him retreat and get away.
yeah,
And
that's how we felt.
yeah.
And so we go back to a base, and where we're waiting for a ride home is what we're doing. And, the war was 100 days.
Yeah.
And we spent more time at this base waiting for a ride
Right.
home. And in this base, while we were there, we basically, you don't have a job. You're either on burn pit duty.
You're just waiting, right?
Yeah, you're on burn pit duty, or you're just hanging out.
Yeah.
Most of us just climbed up to the top and,
Did that base have a name or a
Um,
camp name? Or
It did, and I can't remember what it
Yeah.
is, but I probably can find out and
Yeah.
let you know.
I did get to tour the USS Midway, which is the aircraft carrier that the admiral lived on during that strike. He was the lead carrier.
Yeah,
But-
yeah, and let's not forget what the Navy did. too,
Yeah.
they with the Navy and Air Force, both of them worked really hard to present us with a very good field to operate in.
Yeah, it was interesting because the Midway was a non-nuclear aircraft carrier. It was kind of the older ones, which I guess was diesel.
Yeah.
But that's
Yeah.
that's the one that the admiral of the Navy chose to live on during that time
Yeah.
and be the lead. Because I got to tour it. It's docked in San Diego, and I got to go on a tour and see the flight deck and everything. But
Yeah.
But yeah, we're lucky as one of the only countries to have multiple aircraft carriers because you take your whole air fleet with you wherever and set up shop in the middle of their right across the street from their border.
Yeah, you can't forget all the the Air Force coming off the Navy cruisers and just doing their job. It was a good thing. Like I said,
Did Iraq have any planes?
yeah, they did, and but a very old technology Air Force. It was very bad, and we took it out very quick.
Right.
The Air Force and the Navy bombed the Iraq National Airport and all their planes. Matter of fact, when I told you we served with the 101st Airborne, 82nd Airborne, we were assigned to them. We cleared bunkers there after that because there were Iraqis that were dug deep.
Hiding, right.
Yeah. So, but we had engagements with different things, but clearing the bunkers, most of the guys just wanted to get out, man. They were starving.
Yeah.
No food, no water. We actually had which would be an equivalent to a brigadier general, come up to us and say, I have a whole company that we all want to surrender.
Okay.
He came by himself and said that to our lieutenant.
Wow.
And our lieutenant said, okay, bring him on in. So
Did y'all have to have translators?
No, we had no translators.
Did they speak English?
They spoke very broken English.
Yeah.
They knew to say no,
right, or
a lot of
put their hands up.
Yeah, a lot of this like this.
And did you have to take them as prisoners, or what did they do?
We did. We taken prisoners and then escort them to a place where we had all of them waiting to be processed.
Right.
And that place, actually, I got assigned to stay there as, got off the Bradley and I was on foot, got there, assigned to stay as a guard. And we had a little incident there where someone tried to break through the borders, and we thought we were going to have to stop him, through, having to shoot him, and something happened. He stopped and he came out and said he surrendered. But
was Afghanistan or Pakistan or Al Qaeda even a thought back then? Did you guys even know what it was?
Anything about this? Man, I was in Germany training as an infantryman. We'd go out 60 to 90 days in the field, come back for 30 days, go back, and we were just training. Not once did we do a scenario that we were in the desert or that we were fighting Iraqis. Or
did you have desert camo at that time or green camo?
No. So when we got deployed, we had your BDUs were green camo.
Yeah. Was it the first time that we made desert camo? Did we even have it?
I believe we didn't.
So they had to make it for this.
And they couldn't keep up. So they sent 800,000 of us over there.
Whoa. Yeah.
800,000 of us went to where we're deployed.
Right.
So let me tell you about the desert camo. We didn't get those until we finally got a ride home. And they said, hey, you have a ride home tomorrow. Just be ready. And then that night before we were packing up, they brought us our desert camo.
Oh,
they wanted us to wear desert camo as we got home and got off the plane.
Yeah.
The desert boots and everything.
Yeah.
And we were like...
Because you got to imagine in a sand dune, you're wearing green camo.
Yeah.
It's like sticking out like a sore thumb, I guess.
Some of us were wearing just our chemical suits.
Oh, yeah.
Which is just a green thing. It has a charcoal lining in it. It also has pesticides in it. And so that was another thing we're exposed to, and it soaks into your skin. When we got back and when the war was over, we got to take a real shower. Okay, so for 100 days, we didn't take any shower.
100 days, no shower.
We took canteen cup showers.
Wow.
So we get back, we get to take a real shower, and those of us that chose to just wear the chemical suits, when you take it off, you'd sweat.
Yeah, you have rashes, right?
No. It was just black.
Oh.
It was just like because the charcoal had soaked into our skins from wearing that and so we're taking a shower, and you can just see the charcoal running off into the into the.
What did you eat for those 100 days?
MREs, baby.
The whole time.
MREs.
Wow.
I could, if you give me a box of MREs, I will cook you something up very nice. We learned how to. I did, I've always been a cook. Cook for my family. I'm the cook in the family now. I learned it from my dad and my grandmother. They were both the cooks. My dad and I, after when I came home, had a few barbecue restaurants. So, I could, if you give me a box of MREs, I'll cook you something up that
And
you'll eat.
could you have coffee every morning?
Yeah, so
It's like instant coffee, I guess.
it is.
Okay.
It's in the MRE, but I dipped the coffee.
Oh,
like-
yeah, you put the grounds in your lip.
Yeah, so
okay.
to kind of get
To
that
wake
that
you up.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so that's what I did. I dip that, and then someone else would make coffee, so you'd share it, and then vice versa. But
Yeah.
and then you would say, hey, what do you have? And like, oh, I got chicken a la king, and oof, I got lasagna. Who wants
Yeah.
to? And you kind of make, and then we'd all make it. Me, I'd always try to make something up for everybody. It's like, hey, taste this. Taste this.
Yeah.
And then, but yeah, MREs. We had one PX truck that came out, and it was. You ever see these budget rental trucks that just come out and open the back door, and there's a guy in there. His driver jumps in. He's got M&Ms and Pringles and ramen and cookies and everything, and he's like, dun, 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 and it goes off your payroll. You have to sign what you want.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I didn't take any of that because
Yeah.
I got babies at home, infants that need to eat. So, but I wouldn't eat that stuff anyway. I didn't think that would be smart to eat that stuff while we're out
Right.
there,
Yeah.
But and cigarettes were we supported the cigarette industry while we were there. Cigarettes in Copenhagen and chewing tobacco,
Well, it's a stimulant, so
Yeah, you're when you're not fighting and you're stationary. There's two things that you are. You're nervous
yeah,
because you don't know what the next call is going to come down,
right.
and then you're also bored,
Oh, yeah.
and because you're just waiting. So cigarettes, chew, just try to find some way. We played football. We got this guy who got a football. We had football games. So you're just waiting and you're on edge a little bit.
Mhm.
So you're also human.
Yeah.
And there's something in your brain that tells you that you have to find some way to relax,
Right.
so you don't lose it.
Mhm.
You stay focused.
Yeah.
And so smoking a cigarette or taking a dip of Copenhagen or some chewing tobacco or whatever kind of brings you back to home in a way.
Right.
It kind of gets you there that this is
Yeah.
almost home. It's almost normal.
Yeah, you feel like you're on your back porch for a minute.
Just a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And so how long did you stay in the Army after mission accomplished?
So I came back, and at that time, President Clinton
Mm-hmm.
was going to reduce the number of troops in Germany.
Yeah.
So when I got back, remember I told you we were just one platoon in my unit that went.
Right.
The other units went to different things.
Okay.
So when we got back, we were the only ones there. And so when we got back, our first sergeant was there. It was the middle of the night. When I say middle of the night, 2, 3 morning, we get off the bus, and he's got a record player. He's got a vinyl record playing an Army song. I can't remember what it was. And he came down and shook our hands and gave us rings. He had got all his rings and said, "Welcome back." And so we're there, and the next day, the captain comes out and starts reassigning us.
Mm-hmm.
I got assigned as transportation manager for the brigade commander, and I was his personal driver, and I was in charge of the drivers that handled his employees, the lieutenants and the captains below. So that was pretty nice. It was a cush job. I didn't have to report to nobody. Had a nice, I could, had a nice place on post. I could still live off post, and drove for him for a while. And then one day he says, "Hey, listen, they're reducing the number of troops. If you want to early out, I'll sign off for you. I know you served and you were deployed in Desert Storm." And at that time, my dad was kind of pulling my chain about come home and help me with the barbecue restaurants,
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and so
And was that come home and work for the Army or get out?
get out?
Okay.
Yeah, my dad wanted me to come home and work for
Yeah.
Bob's Barbecue.
Right.
The general was giving me an out. He probably kind of understood that, had a family,
Yeah.
what I just went through. And his job is to reduce troops too.
Yeah.
I'm sure he got the order down. I was
So
probably a good candidate.
Did that have like a discharge category or?
No, still I got an honorable discharge.
Right,
I just
right.
got 3 months off my service time, so
Yeah.
which
okay.
allowed me to get home. Actually, it was perfect. We got home for Christmas,
Yeah. Okay.
so I was out processed and got home. Came back home.
How old were you then when you got out?
21.
Okay.
Yeah, 1981. I got out. I was
Yeah.
21 years old with 2 babies, and yeah.
Or 91, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 1991. Okay. And then what kind of set you on a career path then? I guess you did the barbecue restaurants.
Yeah, we did that. I did that with my dad for a little while, and then he decided he didn't want to do that anymore.
Okay.
And so started looking for jobs, And one of the toughest things for anybody that's in the armed forces to go from being in the military to civilian life is crazy hard.
Right.
It's there's nothing that compares easily.
Yeah.
You have to figure out what your job was in the Army or the Navy or the Marines or whatever in the military. You have to figure out how to take that job and then figure out what that job would be in a civilian career. And
then you
tough.
have the corporate world chain of command, which is way different than the military chain of command. And you have these bosses in the corporate world that you're like, you probably think they're lazy because you're comparing them to your military supervisor.
Yeah, and when you come out, you have a military language, which is not understood by the civilian.
Nobody.
Yeah, so when you try to come out, you try to talk to somebody, and you say, "I was this and this and this and that," and they're like, "What does that even mean?"
Yeah, and you have this impressive resume of a particular set of skills that, like you said, don't always translate into the corporate world.
Yeah.
And now it's probably easier with technology and cyber warfare and computers. And maybe law enforcement to kind of make those transitions.
I think a lot of things are easier, or let me just say no different word, better now, because we have guys that have been in a war for a long time now. We got a lot of guys that are coming back, and so the process of those things are there's more people working on. They're more attentive. They've worked them out. More so than when we came back. When I came back, I didn't know. I just started putting applications in. My first job, I was I had 2 applications. I was the one application I really wanted. I wanted to work for McCoy's Lumberyard in Jasper, and I called that guy every day.
Yeah.
Can I get the job? Can I get the job? So much that he told me, you better stop calling me.
Wow.
Don't call this number again.
Yeah.
And I'd go up there.
It seems weird that they wouldn't want to hire somebody who was a hustler that wanted to.
So I stopped calling. I started just going up there.
Yeah.
And saying, hey, and he was like, get out of here, Okay. And then I had put applications in town everywhere, at every kind of facility. Kentucky Fried Chicken called me. The guy said, hey, listen, I think you're overqualified, but I'll give you a job right now if you'll come in. I didn't have nothing. I needed something.
Yeah.
So I remember I went in and I got my uniform for KFC. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm just going to do this.
This is what we're doing.
Yeah. And then the manager at McCoy's called me that night and said, hey, you think you can start tomorrow? And so I was like, oh, thank God. And so I went to work for McCoy's in the lumber yard and throwing lumber, throwing concrete bags, loading up. And they came to me and said, hey, we think you'd be a good candidate for our manager program.
Right.
And so then I started with them. Worked for them for as a traveling manager, different stores. And that kind of set me on sales manager position.
Right. Was the attitude in the mid-'90s like it is today with a thank you for your service mentality?
No.
Not at all?
No.
Yeah.
I never heard, I don't think I ever heard that.
Until...
I hear it now.
You hear it now, but not
And
back then?
I'll tell you this so people know... different veterans react different to that.
Yeah.
For me, I want to tell you, I'll tell you, thank you for telling me that.
Yeah.
And it's very important to me. For me, it's very appreciative. I thank you for thanking me. Some veterans may be different, So I would say if you tell someone thank you for your service, you may get a different reaction from all of us.
Yeah.
If you tell it to me,
I almost
appreciate it.
don't say it because I don't know the reaction.
And that's my point in saying that is you need to say it.
Yeah.
It's important to say that.
Right.
It really is. Regardless of the reaction you get from the veteran, there's something inside us that we really need to hear that.
Yeah.
And being like truly honest, we really need to hear that, and we appreciate it very much.
Yeah, because guys that are your age, they're not typically wearing, like the veteran hat or something.
Yeah, not
like,
yet. I'm a cover.
Yeah, like the World War II veterans that they've got everything on. From then.
You'll see me with some T-shirts on every once in a while.
Yeah, some of the newer stuff looks pretty cool.
Yeah,
some of the.
I'm not to the hat phase yet, but my wife says I'll get there pretty soon.
So, what was your experience like with the VA system? Was it positive or negative?
So, I didn't reach out to the VA until I was in my 40s. And the reason why is because I ended up with a company that didn't have insurance. I always had, after, leaving McCoy's, and I worked at different jobs. Then I got with J&J Manufacturing here in Beaumont. And I always had good money and I always had good insurance. I never even considered the VA.
Yeah. So you had an employee-sponsored health insurance plan. Yeah.
So when I thought about the VA back then, I thought it was a place for older men and women that served that maybe didn't have an income, needed some help. I had a different image about it.
Kind of like Medicaid for veterans.
Yeah. I have a different image about it now. But when I signed, I registered with the VA in my 40s. When I first went and I sat in the waiting room, and talked to some people, I realized it's a good thing. There's going to be there's a lot of pushback from veterans on the VA, and I understand it. I've been through a couple situations where I went home angry and didn't feel like they took care of me.
Right.
However, it's a thing you have to register with. I believe in it. I believe that you have to, because if we don't, if you didn't serve in a war or if you're a veteran, I would suggest that you register with the VA, because that's information that's going to be beneficial to other veterans.
Right.
And I've come to understand that.
Yeah, because it's a pool of you guys that they do studies on.
Yes.
And they need the data, I guess.
And for those that have, like myself, that Gulf War illness, we need other veterans that served in the Gulf War to come in. There's two registries, Gulf War Illness Registry and Open Burn Pit Registry.
And did you say you're going through the testing right now?
I am, yeah. So I've been tagged with all the precursors.
Yeah.
And so... and I've lived the precursors, and so I finally just said, we get the test.
Is that the war where we first heard about PTSD from?
I believe it is, yes.
Yeah. But, I don't know if maybe we heard it before, maybe with Vietnam veterans.
That's one of the precursors that I got tagged in. I went in for another situation, and one of the doctors at the VA was looking through my records, and some responses I gave and things I talked about when I first registered with the VA, and she goes, you need to get tested for Gulf War illness.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait, what? What's that?
Yeah, you didn't even know what it was.
I'm just coming in because I got this other thing going on.
Right, yeah.
And she's like, no, you need to, I had a hernia that I needed to get taken care of, a lower abdomen hernia. And I didn't have civilian insurance. I didn't have anything. So that's what brought me to register with the VA. And during that process and questioning and testing, and that's what she brought up, and had two doctors at the Houston VA said, hey, you need to go get tested for.
What about the psychological effects? Like, do you have nightmares, or maybe that was closer to coming back from deployment? What about now?
No, I don't have nightmares. I do have tremendous problems sleeping. I tend to I go to bed, and then I wake up.
Oh, okay.
And then walk the house, and I'm checking the front door. I'm looking out the window.
Yeah.
Then I'm watching something on Netflix, and then maybe I catch an hour or two or not.
Yeah.
And then sometimes I'm just up all night long.
Wow. So how many hours of sleep do you think you get now?
Um,
Are you still getting 2 to 3?
yeah, yeah. You know, I don't know if you know this or not, but the military is only required to give you 4 hours of sleep a night.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
No more.
Yeah.
And but that's just a little side note thing.
Yeah.
But no, I don't know. In some days I do sleep 6 to 8 hours. Some days, and I feel like I wake up. I feel like I run through that wall right there.
Yeah.
But then the other days I wake up and I have, one of the symptoms, chronic fatigue.
Chronic fatigue. Yeah.
Yeah, and just aching and hurting, and sometimes most times I'm just awake.
Yeah.
So,
were you able to ever go back and do any research on the injections they were giving you and what they were?
Yeah. Let me tell you about that a little bit. I have some of those. I have a great. Here's a little. This is so Boston University just put out a study on Gulf War illness, and there's a book called Cortex.
Okay.
That they just issued. Okay. And there's a section in there about Gulf War illness, and I think anybody that's thinking about it should read that. But yeah. So no. So we have standard series of injections against infection disease provided to any Gulf War veteran is you get injection for yellow fever, typhoid, hepatitis B, meningitis, whooping cough, polio, tetanus. You get anthrax and botulism toxoid.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's
and I understand the use for it, but you're getting it all in like 90 seconds.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's good for the body.
I would say that buffet line was about, I'd say within 5 minutes you were finished, and you had, which I thought was ironic because then we had to sit on a bus to drive from Kissimmee.
Because from having babies, when they get their baby vaccines, they tell you, okay, you have to wait a certain amount of time and then get the other one.
Yeah.
And then 3 months later you come and get they don't give them to you all at once.
Yeah.
They don't give you 10 shots in one day.
Here's a great thing that from Colin Powell's Line in the Sand. He had assigned someone that worked for him to Brigadier General John Jumper. First of all, I had a friend named John Jumper. We would just hang out and get in trouble all the time. So Brigadier General John Jumper was tasked to take care of bugs and gases. And so they recruited this horse, first flight. It was a race horse, but it was at the Army facility or military facility, and they would inject the horse with the things that they wanted to protect us with, and the horse would make an antibody, and then they would take the antibody out. So this horse was producing, tons, but they knew that it wouldn't be enough, so they recruited another 100 horses, and this was something that they sent over that we would have in case Saddam Hussein used chemical warfare to protect us from a horse.
Wow.
It was when I read this, and of course I didn't know anything about this. When you're just over there doing it, I read that and I was like, wow. Who would think that would come from a horse? That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Well, that covered all the questions I have. I know you brought a lot of notes. If you have anything that you wanted to mention or go to.
No, I brought a lot of notes in just case. But the biggest thing I wanted.
I know you wanted to raise awareness about the Gulf War illness, and for any veterans that are your age that may not know that this is something serious that they need to look into.
Mm-hmm. I would encourage and I would beg them, ask them, please, if you were deployed during the Gulf War, whether you saw combat or not, you can register to take the Gulf War illness test. You don't even have to register with the VA. You don't have to go. You can just there's a link on the VA. You go there, you put your information in, they'll schedule an appointment.
Yeah.
It's a pretty. You're gonna do blood work. You're gonna do X-rays. You're gonna do a lot of things. Okay.
Yeah.
However, that data is very important for those of us that have it, so that, or for those of us that are testing, so that we have more information and the government gives more funding for it. Listen, it took 10 years before the VA ever said, okay, it's a real deal. And as those of us get older, there's a lot of things that are a little scary. You know, we lose white brain matter and gray brain matter. We're more susceptible to brain cancer, MS, memory loss, ALS. There's tons of things that we are
have a higher risk factor for.
Yes,
Yeah.
But we need those veterans that served in the Gulf War to please register, go and do the test. And I would say this, as from a soldier to soldier, if you still want to do your duty and help, then please go.
Yeah.
And register. It's going to be beneficial for a lot of people.
For sure. Yeah. Well, tell everybody what you've been up to here lately. What are you up to these days?
Still working.
Yeah.
That's a good thing. We're
essential workers.
Yeah, I'm essential worker.
I've got my shirt.
Yeah. I got the letter in my car, in my truck too.
Oh, yeah.
It says, in case you get stopped, it says that, hey, I'm an essential worker. I got my papers.
Your paper, yeah.
As we say, got my papers.
Yeah.
Nothing, man. Just loving my family, and praying that this gets done with soon.
I guess your kids are adult kids now, right?
Well, I have 2 adult kids. I have a daughter and a son. We got a 30-year-old daughter, and we have a 29-year-old son. And our son has, he and his wife has blessed us with 4 grandchildren.
Oh, wow.
We have 3 boys.
Yeah.
And we just got Belle Adair.
Okay.
She just came on the scene, and then we also have 7-year-old twins. Yeah, so we have our hands full, man.
And the twins are yours.
Yes.
Is that okay?
Yeah. Yo, they better be mine.
Right. Yeah. Well, not grandkids. I mean.
No.
The
They're
twins
ours.
Yeah. Yeah. So you've got So you've got kids that are younger than mine. I've got my daughter's. She's about to be 14 next month. She's 13 now.
Yeah.
And then my son's 11.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're about to enter that teenage years.
Yeah, she's there. Yeah. Just tried out for high school cheerleader for next year, and she made it. She'll be a freshman cheerleader and athlete.
I remember my daughter, Kristen, got into her teenage years. It was something, man.
Yeah, we've been driving on the weekends in the neighborhood.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I learned to drive at a really early age, and I've been doing that with her as well.
That's good. That is really good.
Yeah, I think if you only did the school driver's ed,
and
you just toss them the keys, that's crazy.
Oh, you don't do that.
I mean, I was driving on the lap and then driving when I could reach the pedals.
Yeah,
and driving everywhere.
Me too. And you should teach them how to drive before they go to driver's ed.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Because I took driver's ed too, and I saw some kids there that
first timer. Yeah,
like they didn't know where do I put the key at? Is it over here?
Yeah.
And then
just
you're
imagine,
going in reverse. Wait.
Yeah, and imagine sending them off to East Tex Freeway at 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
No, you don't do that.
Yeah.
No, that wouldn't be good. No, that's good. But no, that's we're just living, brother. We're just living a good life, and we don't have any complaints, and we've been blessed very much in a lot of different ways. My wife's a teacher, and she's got 2 teaching jobs that she teaches. And she's I made the joke the other day that she's got 15 jobs, and I got half a job right now. But she's hustling, and so. No, man, we have no complaints. Like I said, just living a good life.
That's good to hear. We got any favorite podcasts or books or shows that you've been?
The podcasts I listen to, so I listen to yours, of course. You know that.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yours. And thank you for becoming a new patron on Patreon.
Oh, man, you're welcome.
Very generous.
Man, and I told you earlier, we thank you for what you're doing.
Yeah.
And some people, so what is he doing? Well, you're bringing people in here to tell stories and about their life and, sharing knowledge, and that's good. That's beneficial for the community.
Yeah.
It's beneficial for the person that you're bringing into.
You go to a lot of community events like I do, and people know you from, they know Business Wade. They don't know Soldier Wade. No. And they're going to hear this, and they're not going to know any of these stories. And you'll probably get a lot of feedback, I'm sure, after this, like, wow, I didn't know that you did all of that.
Yeah. That's okay. I mean, it's not, I'll be prepared for that, I guess. I don't know. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much for coming. You're welcome back anytime.
Thank you for having me, man. I really do appreciate it. I got other things we might come back and talk about too. So
yeah, for sure. We were talking before this about all the factories you got to see out there, and that's another thing that amazes me. The building automations and these giant factories that have merchandise built by robots and machines and how they automate. So we'll have to get you back on again. Yeah, for sure. All right, thanks, Wade.
Yeah, thank you.
See everybody later.
All right.
you.